I think anybody who decides to be in the public light is just going to have to face that. And you're going to receive a lot of public comments, and you're going to have to learn how to deal with whether they're trolls or even super fans, right? So this is I think, a pretty personal topic in many ways for a lot of people, but I actually want to open up with you, Jason, in asking how you've experienced criticism in the past, and maybe what were some of the initial reactions that you first had to, maybe how do you respond now?
Yeah, because the way I responded in my early years is a little bit different. Yeah, I've been a musician throughout my entire life since I picked up the guitar end of 1989. And about a year after that, I started playing in bands. I was playing in a church band. I played in an alternative rock band for a while. I played in an 80s style band. I've had several bands over the years. And of course, now being out there on YouTube. So I got criticized. I had a band, we'll go back to like the mid 90s. I had a band that I'd formed with a good friend of mine called The Guys. And we're just, some guys hanging out. And, my buddies, they kind of lightly criticized my vocals a bit back then. Now, at the time, I didn't take it very well. I'm like, okay, well, I'm just going to keep doing what I'm doing. But I know deep down at that time in my life, I either should have worked to get better at what I was doing, which was, vocals and also playing guitar and singing at the same time. Because if I'm honest with myself, I wasn't very good at that. And my vocals were just kind of subpar, right? And I've never like deemed myself as this awesome vocalist. I love singing as much as I do playing guitar, but it is something that I was always a little self-conscious. I didn't have that ultimate range and what have you. But my buddies, they lightly criticized me, and I could tell that they probably thought our band probably had a better chance with another singer, and we could have gone in a different direction. And I feel that I held us back. And I've told them, I've apologized to them both over the years, because they had, and I'm going somewhere with this, I'm going somewhere very important with this in regards to who you accept criticism from and who you listen to, right? And which opinions really matter. So these are my bandmates. We're trying to do something. Their opinion did matter to me. And it still does today. I often send tracks to them both, Eddie and Tom. If you guys are listening, hey guys, two of my closest friends. We've been friends for decades now. But back then, I didn't take the criticism well, and I just kept going. And I really feel that I kept our band from its full potential that we may have had otherwise. So, and you guys probably, Ken, everybody listening, probably didn't expect to hear that side of it, right? They probably just expected to hear, well, I got criticized and it got me down, or I said I don't care, whatever. Well, this is criticism that I should have probably listened to. Well, there's no probably about it. I should have listened to this criticism. Now, if we go over to the other side of that, and you're just putting stuff out there, you're doing your best. Because even the best of musicians that are putting great content out there, putting great music out there, get bashed, like Kirk Hammett. We'll talk about him in a second, right? But
Oh yeah.
yeah, and it's like, I think you have to be, and what I've learned over the years is you really have to be careful how you let the criticism impact you, because most people these days, because of the internet, and I love the internet, Ken, you and I wouldn't be doing this without the internet. So I'm not one of those people that says, well, internet is evil. The internet only shows people's true character, right? Oftentimes we say things on the keyboard that we wouldn't dare say to someone's face. And that's not being a tough guy or tough girl. It's just a matter of just being a decent human being. A lot of the stuff that people blurt out online, well, if they were sitting down with you and I and having a cup of coffee or a beer, maybe two beers, they wouldn't talk to us like that. But right. For some reason, people get behind the keyboard and their true character comes out. So these days, I let it roll off my back. I used to let it bother me, whether it was criticism I needed to hear or whether it was just criticism that was meaningless. Because 90% of the criticism, maybe even 98% of it, is useless. It adds no value. It's someone's opinion. And oftentimes, that opinion is what that person thinks of themselves. So they
You know,
criticize you or whoever to make them feel better about not pushing forward, not moving forward with their own life. So the two takeaways from my experience is know who to accept the criticism from and where that's coming from. Is it coming from a good place? Is it coming from a place that is going to bring value? Or is it just someone blurting out their opinion, their meaningless opinion? So you have to decipher like which one is it? Then you decide how you handle it. If it's constructive criticism coming from a bandmate or your producer, for example, okay, well, maybe you listen to them and like, okay, well, let me see. Maybe they're pushing you harder, right? Pushing you to be greater, to be better. But if it's the other 98% of criticism, you really just have to let it roll off your back.
Yeah, and I want to talk about that side of things where people online, when they criticize, a lot of the time, because there is a barrier between people when you're speaking online, which is obviously the internet. So you are behind a screen, and it's like, honestly, any thought that comes to your head can be exerted onto the screen, and you can say whatever you want. It's allowed people, and I love this quote. It came actually from a movie called The Glass Onion with I think it's Daniel Craig, and he says there's a difference between speaking the truth and speaking without thought. And I love that because it's a very, very unique way to just give a perspective on how do people save information. And when you're looking online, many times what people say isn't necessarily true. It's just they're speaking what comes to mind. And some people will say, well, I'm just speaking the truth. You know, they'll say that, but maybe they're actually ignorant of what the truth actually is. You know, maybe they just don't know, or it's just an assumption that they think that it's true. Those kinds of comments that you find and criticisms, we'll call them online, they come from sometimes people who have just a lot of bias towards one way of thinking, and they just haven't seen it from the other side yet. Even as a company, Metal Mastermind has put out, you know, quite a bit of content, and we get people who respond instinctually all the time. And actually, when we talk to them through comments and stuff like that, many times we actually see them turn around and say, oh, I actually didn't really mean it, you know, to be that way, or actually I see your point. And some people are open to that. You know, they're going to correct themselves. Some people are also very stubborn and they don't really care, and that's okay too. And those are the opinions that shouldn't matter to you, right? So when you mentioned the working with people earlier on in your life with the guys, right? And having that experience of being close with your bandmates and wanting to grow and see what kind of, criticisms you can take in order to help you become a better musician. Sometimes it's really hard to take that information because at the same time, you're also limited. If they're talking about, what they think you should do, you're also limited to their perspective on what your next step should be, if that makes sense. It's not like you're receiving the best advice every time, because what they think might be better for your growth may not actually be what's better for your growth. Sometimes it's also, when are you ready for growth? Many times when we are starting off, as a musician, we're very insecure and we don't have a lot of that confidence that we really seek from our idols, right? Because when you see somebody that you idolize play and they're just like ripping it up and just not even having like a care in the world what everybody thinks in that moment, you aspire to be that. You are inspired to practice every day and make better moves for your practice regime, and trying to get even more how would you say, just experience, right? So, but in the beginning, when you are at that point, the people that you're surrounding yourself with are probably going to be at the same level, if not maybe a little more, right? So everybody in that realm is still growing too. When you get later on in your career, the type of criticism that you would have respected in the beginning, you probably wouldn't respect as much now, because now you've become a different, you're at a different stage of your experience. So now you require more, how would you say, respectable opinions in that case.
Be sure to listen to the entire podcast on metalmastermind.com. You can just click on podcast there, or go to Spotify or Google Play. There are links in the description of this video. I want to say thank you so much for supporting and being a part of Metal Mastermind. And hey, drop us a comment if you have some things that you would like for us to cover in future podcasts. We'll see you on the next show. And remember, create your own sound and style.